Hey, welcome to Project 31 Pink Ribbon Roller Coaster. This is Jennifer Harrod, our nurse navigator. I'm Jane Wilson, CFO. And today we're going to chat about your legal rights as a patient. I know for a lot of people it's very confusing.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of a whole new, usually financial struggle.
Exactly.
There's HIPAA, there's just all the things, and often it's new for people. If you've not been through some kind of long-term illness like this, if all you've done is gone to the ER once,
Right.
This is a whole new deal.
And I think so much of, as breast cancer, when we get diagnosed, we feel like we just lose control of everything in our lives. And, the financial aspect, you lose control of that, where you used to have a plan of everything. So, but we do have legal rights. We do have help out there. And I think that's what we need to realize, that you're not all alone. You're not on that island. There is help.
So give us an idea of what a patient should, sort of some of the processes and things that are available to them if they have an issue with.
Right. I think one of the big things is study your insurance policy. Know what is covered, know if it's an HMO, a PPO, who you need to see, and make sure that doctor is on your policy. I think that's a big thing. And if you have a denial for a test, for imaging, you can always appeal that. You can always ask your doctor to appeal that with your insurance company. A lot of times with our medications, and I know this is true for non-cancer medications even, there is such thing as called a step up with the insurance as far as for your medications. So they may prescribe you a generic lower cost one because that's what your insurance is going to pay for. But if that medication is going to be detrimental or not work or be contraindicated to other health problems you may have, be sure you're talking to your doctor, to your healthcare team, and explaining this, because they can talk to the insurance company on your behalf.
Right.
And they can get it approved so that you can step up many times to the next medication without having to go through the certain steps of, well, this generic medication doesn't work, so here's your next step up. No, get me to the one that's going to be the best one for me now.
Because there's different tiers often that they categorize pharmaceuticals in different tiers, and some insurance won't pay for some of those higher tiers.
Exactly.
And so some of the newer drugs that are very up and coming are often in that higher tier, right?
Yeah.
And that's usually the problem.
That's
stuff that's been
exactly
around
right.
forever, they'll pay for because it's not expensive. But some of the newer, like Keytruda and some of those kind of newer drugs are in a higher tier, and
they may not pay for it right off the bat.
Exactly.
They may say, oh, you need to try tier 1. If that doesn't work, go to tier 2.
Right.
Okay, well, that doesn't work. So all of that time, you're waiting to have the optimal drug. So many times, talk to your healthcare team and your doctor.
Right.
So, another thing that I talk to a lot of ladies is they're struggling to pay maybe their rent or their landlord. And I think talking to that landlord, talking to them about your situation and what's going on, that this is a situation that has happened. You may not be in this financial predicament forever.
Right.
But it's happening right now. Many times your landlords will work with you because it costs more money to look for somebody else, another tenant, than to keep a good tenant in there.
Yeah, especially if you've been a good tenant and you've paid on time.
Exactly. So a lot of times they will work with you.
Sure.
And there's other programs out there that can help. I know United Way, Catholic Charities, a lot of times they have money where they can help you to stay in your rental home and get caught up. There's also many nonprofits out there that also have grants that can help you with emergency money to help you with rent, car payments, things such as that. So
And talking to, if your hospital or oncologist offers a financial counselor, chatting with them to get
Definitely.
resources and ideas on maybe just how to, spread it a little thinner sometimes. And often they have resources that we don't even know about.
Exactly. Exactly. And, like you said, talking to the hospital and the financial navigator, if they do have one, also talk to them if you're having trouble paying your medical bills. You can always call and talk to the financial department at your local hospital where you're being treated. And they can sometimes work with you to find out charity funds that may be available to help with your medical bills, or just be able to set up a payment plan with you.
Sure.
But definitely calling and talking to them.
I think the key there is contact.
Yes.
If you just hide from them, that's not a good plan. Like, take their
No.
calls. If the lab is reaching out to you because you have a bill due,
Right.
And you can't afford to pay that lab bill, a phone call to their billing department maybe get you down the road a little ways, because they're
Right.
used to dealing with people who, this was an unexpected expense, right? Nobody nobody has a cancer savings account, right?
No.
It's not a thing. So I remember I went to my oncologist, they sent me to the financial counselor person when I first got diagnosed, and they wanted some upfront money.
Oh, gosh.
Because they wanted the gap that what my insurance wasn't going to pay, and they wanted it up front. And I said, love ya, but I didn't plan for this, and I think y'all will be okay if I don't give you $10,000 right now. But I know
Right.
if I give you $10,000 right now, I'll be broke, and not just broke, but like in debt.
Yeah.
So I said, if you can't treat me, that's fine. Well, I'll go someplace else. And they said, oh no, we can treat you. I said, okay, well then I'll talk to you later.
Exactly. We'll deal with this later
We'll
on.
talk to you later. I'll pay you.
Because, yeah, you're going through fighting for your life and trying to argue with the insurance company and the
It's too much.
hospital. Yeah, it is.
It's stressful.
Yes, when you're not supposed to be stressing.
Yes.
So-
Yeah. When stress is not good for you.
Exactly. Also, if you're taking a chemotherapy oral pill, or even tamoxifen, aromatase inhibitor, often if you go to the company's website, they will have funds that can, even if you apply and you qualify, you can either get them discounted medications or sometimes free. So just sometimes making that phone call and filling out the paperwork, however, is annoying. We hate filling out the paperwork and, having people dive into our finances. But if it helps,
If it's between that and not getting the drug, then you might want to consider that.
definitely. And also, checking your medical bills, I think, is a big thing, don't you?
Oh, it's huge, because I found a lot of errors.
Did
Just
you?
things that they either had run through the insurance company and the insurance company had paid it weird or declined it.
Oh,
and,
wow.
So because I'm an accountant though,
Right.
so people who aren't good with numbers, that's stressful again for them. For me, it was kind of, I don't know, almost therapeutic, but sad. Isn't that sad?
Says only
Isn't that
an
sad? I'm
accountant.
so sorry. I apologize. I apologize for being a nerd, but it was kind of like I had spreadsheets and the whole,
Oh, wow.
an accordion file. I had the whole thing. But even for me, it was a lot. It was daunting, and it was a lot. And because you don't feel, you're not at your best.
No.
It's not like it was just a leisure activity. Like I needed to do it before I wrote a check.
Right.
you know.
Definitely. I mean, people make mistakes.
Of course they do.
So your medical coders, your medical billers can input something with a little typo, and that little typo can throw the code off where insurance isn't going to pay it. So people are human. Mistakes happen. Small errors can make a big difference. Take your bill, take your EOB, compare them. Make sure that everything, and reach out to the insurance company or your doctor's office, the billing office, if you have questions about that bill or how it was billed, if it needs to be a different code. And remember, you only have approximately 180 days to
Right. You don't
dispute
have
that.
forever.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once you get that EOB, once you get that bill, don't just set it aside and think you're going to deal with it later. At least take the time to look at it, or have a friend or a family member look at it.
Yeah, and I would say if you're not the person to do that, if you're not the one to kind of push that through, or if you just don't feel well enough to do it, sign a power of attorney so that your daughter, your sister, your mother, whoever,
Great idea.
your dad, whoever your person is, can talk to them on your behalf, because they won't talk. The billing companies and the insurance companies will not talk to someone else unless they have power of
That's a
attorney.
great point.
And if you want to just hand that off to someone that you really do trust, you're going to need that document.
Right.
It's an easy thing to get a medical power of attorney, and you can probably download them online. I don't even think you need an attorney for that. But and then all you have to do is have that notarized. So when you sign it, it just has to be witnessed and notarized. So I would recommend that if you're not up to it.
Right. And often I hear ladies that will call me and they're unable to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge financial hit to their family to, not only now I can't pay these bills.
Right.
And now insurance isn't paying for this portion, but now I can't work.
Right. So if you've been working in the, in the regular work life, where this kind of tends to get derailed a little bit is if we work with ministries where people are not paying in Social Security. But if you've been paying in Social Security and you're not exempt from Social Security, if you've been working long enough, you are entitled to disability. And it's not short-term disability. It is long-term disability, but it doesn't have to be permanent disability. So some people go on long-term disability for a couple of years while they're doing treatment, and then go back to work when they're well. Now you have to be approved for that. There's a process. It's not a short process, and it's not an easy process, but it can be done. So if you have an extreme situation where you can't work, you might look into that depending on your age, how long you've been working, and what does your doctor say about are you able to work. You would obviously need some documentation that working is not optimal, but you can go on disability for a year or two if you need to, and then go back off of it.
That's good. Well, and there's, depending on if you've taken out your short-term or long-term disability at work, don't forget about that policy. A lot of people, you're dealing with the shock and the, anxiety and all the emotions, and you forget, oh yeah, I paid into this.
Yeah, if you have those, take advantage of them. Not everybody offers that, obviously.
No,
but if you work for a
sure.
small company, you may not have short-term or long-term disability, but it's certainly worth asking.
It is, and your human resource department a lot of times can help you with that. Also, depending on how large of a company you work for, I think if it's a private company, if they have 15 or more employees, or if it's a government or state agency, no matter how many, and depending on how long you've worked for the company, sometimes you can qualify for FMLA, so the Family Medical Leave Act, and that could give you 12 weeks.
Yeah, it's typically FMLA is unpaid leave.
Right.
So it's leave, but you're not getting a paycheck.
But it saves your job. Helps to save
It could
that
absolutely save your job if you need a break. Like for me, I did a real intensive month of chemo, so 12 weeks off would have been
ideal.
Yeah, it would have been nice because I would have had a little buffer, after. And so it's something to consider if your job qualifies for some of these benefits. Look into them.
Okay, that's great. And then I know also we're covered under, possibly can be covered under Americans with Disability Act. So asking your supervisor, your boss, for reasonable accommodations.
Right.
And they should be able to work with you. Granted, you've been there and proven that.
Right. Can't be your day one job.
No. But you're entitled to reasonable accommodations, and often cancer itself may not create the disability, but rather the side effects of treatment.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
your nausea, your vomiting, your anxiety, depression, neuropathy, fatigue, reasonable accommodations, or any change to the work environment or the way that things are customly done that enables an individual with a disability to enjoy equal employment opportunities.
Yeah, so perhaps you can work from home, perhaps you could go to
Exactly.
part-time, but keep your benefits. There are things that can't, people just need to get creative sometimes, and
Exactly.
sometimes just ask. If you're coping well and they don't see how much you struggle and how much this is, impairing your life, you might need to go to HR and say, look, this is really tough. This is really hard. Is there anything we can do to kind of make these next 6, 8, 10, 20 weeks
Definitely.
easier? I want to keep my job. I want to stay here. I want to work, but.
But I think the key, just like with other things that we're dealing with cancer, is communication.
Absolutely.
And asking ahead of time before your performance really is affected. So be sure you're asking for those accommodations ahead of time.
I know for me, I was able to work at home for a little while. And it wasn't during the
that's
whole
wonderful.
2 years, but during the time when I was the most susceptible to germs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They kind of needed me to be at home all the time. And
Right.
so I was only going to the doctor and coming back home. They didn't want me to be anywhere else. So I was able to work from home some.
That's
and that was a real blessing, because that was at a time when working remotely was not as common as it is now.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely, COVID has made it more common.
COVID
now.
changed a lot of things, I guess. Some for the better.
Yes.
We'll take some of the better ones, right?
Definitely. I think, knowing all your rights,
Yeah.
and also knowing the resources out there. So a great resource that I just love is triagecancer.org. So you can go on there. They have lots of legal resources, and just to know where you stand and what's available. And also they have volunteers that you can talk to at Triage Cancer that can help with finances and legal questions that you may have, and can help you out, because you don't know what you don't know and what's available out there. Also, I think, especially now that I'm on the other side of breast cancer, as far as treatment-wise, I think we need to really advocate as well for ourselves and for the legal rights that we want for ourselves and others coming up with breast cancer diagnoses. So a great resource to know what new laws are coming out or how you can help advocate for other survivors is even canceradvocacy.org.
Because there's new laws all the time coming
There
down the
are.
pike. There have been changes about, just in the time that since I was diagnosed till now, things about like whether insurance pays for wigs,
Yes.
whether insurance pays for reconstruction, and if so, what options, and things like that. So some of that has morphed over the last 25 years and improved, honestly.
It has.
Because when you're going through cancer and you lose all your hair and you can't afford to buy a wig, that can kick off a whole set of emotional trauma that,
Yes.
I think insurance has figured out, if we just buy them a wig, then now we might not have to pay for counseling for the next 5 years. So there's a lot of people have advocated over the years and gotten some real change to happen, which has been great. And testing, things like that, MRIs, PET scans, some of that's starting to free up and get better.
And more will, I think, as we advocate for it.
I
So,
agree. Well, thanks, Jennifer.
you're
That was
welcome.
awesome.
Thank you, Jane. I just love talking to you.
I know.
So.
It was good. Thanks so much. See us next time. Bye-bye.